orgasming is a little different now. Like it's not, I used to be able to come like so quickly. Now I still can, but it can be different. Like it's because if things are tight inside your pelvic floor, it can affect your orgasm. So when things really started to kick off for me in the beginning of the year, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh my God, am I going to be one of those girls that can't come now?
Welcome to Sweet Release Podcast with me, Barbie Jean. Hi, my sweets. Real quick, this episode, first of all, is such a special one. I'm joined by one of my best friends for this heartfelt conversation about love and letting go and pleasure and orgasms and really just learning to trust yourself. And speaking of trust, to my Los Angeles sweets, if you're craving an experience to really feel that in your body, I am so excited. I'm hosting a gorgeous evening next week with another dear friend of mine, Tethered. It's for couples and close connections. It's going to be a night of yoga, shibari, and an eye-gazing meditation, tea, conversation, giggles, sensuality. It's going to be soft and sensual as you know I am, but also deeply grounding, a space to slow down, drop in, and truly open up. It's July 17th from 7 to 9 p.m. and spots are limited. You can grab your ticket through the link in the show notes or on my link tree. Let this episode be the reminder that trust can be your compass. And if you're ready to feel it fully, get vulnerable, to trust, come next week and get lovingly tied up with us. Okay, now let's get back to Dani's episode. Hi, my sweets. Welcome back. I'm Barbie Jean, your host, and today I am so excited. I have a sweet treat for you today. One of my best friends is sitting next to me. Dani, welcome.
Hi, Barbie. I'm so honored to be sitting in this chair with you. Gosh, I remember when you were bringing this to life. We were all in your living room and you were just shooting out ideas. And now I am one of your guests, and that really means a lot. I don't take it for granted. Thank you.
Well, it's a big thing to be vulnerable and to be here and kind of open up. So I'm grateful for you too. And it's just nice to, I have a lot of really vulnerable friends, but a lot of people are scared to be with the lights and the camera and the action. And so it is a big deal for me too. So I'm so happy you're here. We're going to talk about like a lot today, really just kind of sharing your story and your journey, but specifically relationships and letting go and just kind of, you've been through a lot of trials and tribulations the last couple years and with your body and kind of reconnecting with your body. And there's just so much that I'm excited to dive into. But to kind of start, I guess, we both have explored a lot. We've been in lots of different types of relationships. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there's a kind of like a big lesson that you've learned in the last few years that we could like start with or?
Yeah. Well, the journey never ends, right? And there's days where I think I have it all figured out. And then other times where I'm like, I thought I learned that lesson. Did I not? But what's really come to me mostly this last year is knowing when to let go. And walking away from someone that you love is one of the hardest things to do. But I've learned that through some hard lessons that if you don't do it when you know you're supposed to, your body will show up in different ways and it'll signal you when things aren't right. And I don't think I listened to myself for a long time. My higher self would say, I don't know, that doesn't feel right. But there's this difference between knowing what is like a trigger from anxiety or what could just be, your intuition coming in. And they're so closely intertwined. So I've really had to learn with, am I trying to protect myself right now? Or is this my intuition saying this isn't right? So this is an ongoing process.
Yeah, as it is. And I feel like I've been in relationships too, where your body does kind of signal to you, or even I was having a conversation with someone at work recently and it was like, even my body wasn't responding in the pleasurable way that I'm used to sometimes partners. And there's sometimes these signals that your body can give you, and then we just like brush it off or we don't recognize it.
Yep.
And I think like listening to your body is hard.
So
but
hard.
It is a good lesson.
And it's kind of like it starts with a little knock, right? And then it eventually will be a scream. And that's kind of what's happened to me this last 6 months since the beginning of the year. I think I've had some not so healthy relationships. I've had some good ones too, but in 2020, I had a really bad one. And I did a lot of healing around that. And, I moved on and dated again and met great guys and even explored, sexuality in different ways. But the last partner that I was with, the love was really deep, but we just couldn't get past the same fights. And I kept trying, and my body rejected him at certain times. Like I got super sick, or I would get all the infections in the vagina, like these are signals. And women were so sometimes compassionate to the fault of like, oh, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. Or, oh, I'm just off, or it's my period or something. When actually it's our body has so much fucking wisdom. Like our womb area, especially, like it holds so much. It holds trauma. Sometimes it's not even ours. It could be like ancestral things, but it is alive and it is talking to us. And if we're not listening, eventually, like I said, it's going to become a scream and it's going to be painful in different ways.
Yeah, it's a good point about, even just getting like UTIs or getting infections. Like I feel like a lot of our friends, when you're sleeping around, it can be a little bit more prevalent, or
Sure.
a specific person, it can just flare up. But I remember one guy that I dated, and it was also an unhealthy relationship. It's the only time that I've ever had like consistent infections.
Was the sex good though?
Yeah, but it was that Dom guy that I dated, and it was kind of a long distance relationship, and it wasn't longer than like 5 months, but I feel like my boundaries, I didn't know my boundaries then. And it was similar to that relationship you had in 2020, where it's just like the way that we talk about these guys is like, that wasn't unhealthy, uncomfortable, and it doesn't settle right still. And so for him, he was always pushing the boundaries, and like, even like the way that we would explore BDSM wasn't in this like safe container space that made me feel even appreciated. Like it was like punishing me, or like the way that he was exploring it was in this degrading way that I didn't know that I was uncomfortable with at the time. So I was like, oh, he's into it, so I'll like
that's what we do as women. I'll just keep going along with it. Yeah.
But in hindsight, after that, really, and there was this like my body every time I was with him was like, this feels like, yeah, the sex is good, but like it feels like we're really connected. But at the same time, it was like, yeah, my body was telling me like this isn't right. It's not sitting right. And physically, it was telling me that too. I kept getting countless UTIs, and so yeah, I think that is a really good lesson I don't know how men's bodies respond, but for women specifically, I think like it's really good to listen to the womb, like you said.
We have a lot of responsibility with that. Yeah. And, it seemed for me that these two relationships, in particular, the 2020 and then the one that I recently have walked away from, the sex was so good, which fucked my mind up, right? Because I'm like, oh, we're connecting and this is our intimacy. But, like there has to be more than the bedroom. And sometimes, look, you go through waves with partners too, where you do feel connected and the person is showing up for you and you feel like you could show up for your best self too. But if it's a consistent thing, when it's a struggle, and it shouldn't always be that hard. And that's something I'm still learning of. Like, I had a long 7-year relationship that he's still the person that I put on this totem of like, oh, okay, I know what a healthy relationship looks like. And I know how it feels to be supported by a partner, and a partner to, hold you up when you're feeling down and take some weight off your shoulders. Yeah, it's been a challenge. And to kind of circle into what I've been doing recently is when I went to go visit this last partner. We kind of, kept saying goodbye to each other. And I did a lot of traveling this last year, as you know, and going to different countries. And I love to surf and all that kind of thing. So I was surfing and really just by myself a lot. And when you're alone and you're traveling, you really can sit with yourself. You're not distracted. And, but he was always on my mind. And it was always that like, what if, what if? And when our relationship was present in LA, there was a lot of depression, I think, on both of our ends for different reasons. I wanted to explore and explore in terms of travel. And I wanted him to be with me, but he didn't have a job lined up and a lot of things happened. But there was always this like, well, what if, when I kept trying. And I went to go visit him for the holidays. And it's like that saying, wherever you go, there you are. And before I left, I will say this is a big lesson. I kept saying to myself, like, gosh, Dani, am I willing to go there and know if it doesn't work out, can I handle the consequences of learning to go through the heartbreak again? When you're not with somebody for a while, after time, you can kind of move forward, but am I willing to put myself through that again? Or like worst case, what if I get an STD? Am I going to be okay with the consequences? And I kept checking in with myself on that. But I knew I just had to go and see how it would be. And really interesting, I got there and it was like day 3 or day 4. I couldn't pee. And it was so interesting. I would sit in the toilet. I would try to relax. I'm like, this is probably a UTI, right? Like it has kind of all the black and white symptoms of a UTI. And I was running around town trying to get doctors to see me in a different country. And they're like, no, this is not a UTI. Like everything looks normal, but maybe see a urologist. So since November, it has been something that I continue to struggle with to this day. And I've gone through so many different trial and errors to figure out what this feeling is. And it's ranged. It started from I couldn't pee to then intercourse was painful, to is there something happening with my hormones? Like everything just kind of, you get so scared when things are happening to your body and there's not enough information. And I saw a urologist, and the first urologist was like, oh yeah, I think it's just pelvic floor pain. Like you should just go to PT. They were super dismissive, which a lot of urologists and doctors are in the women's health space, and especially in the pelvic area. I've learned the pelvic floor is the muscles that hold everything down there. Mm-hmm. Everything is supported by your pelvic floor. So I'm like, but I can't pee, or it feels like my pee is up in my stomach and I can't even feel it come down, or I'd be going to the bathroom 6 times before I fall asleep. There was urgency. It has been such a fucking wild experience because it hasn't been the same. But to kind of make a long story short, I got some second opinions, which you guys, having good healthcare is the most important thing. Making sure a doctor believes in you, because it's not just all in your head, which some people would say. But it is pelvic floor issues. And the last urogyno that I saw, which is something I learned about, there's a specialist that does both. And they're like, we see this all the time. You're just a classic person that had something traumatic happened and their bladder is never the same. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to have to just hit the ground running with a lot of pelvic floor therapy and learning how to breathe again, because, we're tense and our pelvic floor tenses up, and I should maybe even breathe right now. Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, and I mean, to go back to that trip where you went for kind of that last final hurrah in a way, I remember that, and I was telling you too, you know what, it's sometimes good. I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves when they reconnect with lovers after they've broken up. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's so common to kind of just get that closure in a way. And I remember telling you it's probably gonna, either you might reconnect in a way that you're gonna learn something, or it's gonna give you the closure that you need. You never know. But the fact that this whole body issue started at that moment was then kind of this catalyst for all these other just like waves of like,
It really
just, like releases, right? And not the best way. But I do think, like you mentioned in the beginning, like it again, it's like the lesson is one, to like let go, and also continuing to like advocate for yourself and listen to your body, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. The start of the year was wild. I mean, we had the fires here. I was misplaced for a bit and then trying to see doctors. And I noticed myself in this like spiral of, I have to have it all figured out. Definitely felt like super alone. I would share this with people and not many people could relate. And yeah, having to have all the answers right away was something that probably intensified everything for me. I had some friends that even I had to say goodbye to, which was so fucking heartbreaking. Having to try to figure out why. Like, I just lost a partner and now I'm saying goodbye to some really close friends. Like, it was just so, so challenging. And a lot of the time I was like, is this me? Is this something I've done? So I've really kind of went into like, I've had a lot of dark days and sadness that's come along with this, which doesn't help the pelvic floor. It doesn't help these symptoms because it's all related. So learning to let go. And, I realized like not everyone is going to meet you where you are. You have been such an incredible gift of a friend, like sitting with me during some of my hardest moments and holding space for me, even when your life and, everyone's busy. But I've learned that not everyone is willing to do that. Not only necessarily for me, but for themselves. Like, maybe people don't have the emotional capacity to face their own issues or to face what they need to work through. And I've had to come to terms with that, that not everyone wants to peel the scab off and see what's underneath. Because when you do that, it's just like things could keep coming up. And I think that was something from my last relationship I really had to learn of. He just wasn't ready to do his own work. And he was honest with me. And he did tell me that a few times. But I was like, oh, come on. Like, it's just therapy. It's just like, you're going to feel better. But like, people don't always want to sit in the shadow.
Yeah. And I've learned that too, letting go of friendships too, is, sometimes it's true. They don't want to sit in the shadow. They don't want to meet you where you need them to be. I think like relationships are such this like give and take, and sometimes it's not equal, but it should still feel like they're bringing value to your life. And I think that's something I learned a few years ago, was like every year I really do. I think about it. It's like part of my New Year's resolutions and my New Year goals. And like, who are the relationships that I want to continue to put my effort into? And which ones do I not? And I think even with my ex, there was a beginning of my relationship with my partner now. And I was still kind of like giving some attention to that via texts and just like, and sometimes it's so hard to let that go. And then I think, the more honest you are with how like he was feeling about it, and more conversations that we had, and even, maybe the lack of conversations there are with like friends, it's like, okay, is this really serving me? Like how does this actually make me feel?
Yeah.
And for me, letting go has also been like even reconnecting with my body. And I think even in long, very emotional partnerships, it's been so hard for me to sometimes reconnect to myself, or even like I'll either like be like, okay, I'm going to be a slut or I'm going to be abstinent, Like, I think so many women go in different directions where it's like, okay, I want to like fuck the sadness out of me, or I only want to like lick pussy maybe, because it's like dick suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
sometimes
I feel like
they really do.
A lot of us are like, okay, I'm turning into a lesbian,
Yeah.
And I feel like there's sometimes though, that is like a way for you to kind of, in a way, let go and heal.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that too?
I love this question. Yes. So in the beginning of the year, I met somebody and we didn't have good sexual chemistry, which all I kind of wanted was some good sexual chemistry. But we had like good conversations and he was super interesting, and he's in like the play space. So I was like, oh, this is going to be cool and fun. And, but like the sex was not great and also was not pleasurable for me, mostly because of the pain. And where I'm at in my life right now is like, and you know me, like I love to dance. I love to explore my sexuality. I love to play with men and women, but it's changed a lot this last year. And when you're not feeling good and you can't figure out what's going on in your body, and especially in this area, it turns you off. Like you don't feel fucking sexy. So yes, there's been times where I'm like, I just want to go out and get fucking crunked and like, you know, put my titties out and just get attention, which I have done, and it is still fun. But I am so focused right now on my mental health and healing my body that I think that is not the place for me yet until I'm finding a partner that I want to do that with. I think so much has shifted and my body is like, actually, you need to slow down. You need to sit with yourself, you know, going out and maybe connecting intimately with somebody else that you don't know who they are, their energy, and having them inside you is maybe not what I need now. So I have stepped away from that. I've become very much more of a hermit these days. And like, there's got to be a balance too. Like we recently went out to a show and danced, and I had so much fun. And that was actually, I ended up that night going home with somebody. And that would have been the first time since all of this started where I did not have pain during sex. And I remember I was like riding him and I was like, oh my God, it doesn't hurt. And he was like, great. And then I was like having to open up to him during sex, and he like was lovely and like totally provided the space for me to share. I was like, I've been going through a lot of things. Sex hasn't felt good, but this feels so great. So it was the first time. So my last sexual experience was completely safe, felt really playful. It felt good. Like orgasming is a little different now. Like it's not, I used to be able to come like so quickly. Now I still can, but it can be different. Like it's because if things are tight inside your pelvic floor, it can affect your orgasm. So when things really started to kick off for me in the beginning of the year, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh my God, am I gonna be one of those girls that can't come now? Because that's a real thing. Women struggle with that. And yeah, the orgasm was a little different. I feel like I'm kind of coming back to get it. I think I'm starting to feel like normal orgasms again. And it ranges depending on like, if I'm super stressed and tight, I'm going to feel it's going to be different. Yeah. So it's practicing like everyday routines to make sure that this is always relaxed and I'm not stressed and I'm meditating and I'm like drinking the juice. You know what I mean? I've been meaning to ask you if you connected with him again. I have not. No. It's just that one lovely night and I remember the next day we were both like texting. Oh, you're talking about like, the recent one. The recent one. Oh, yeah. I got a text the other day saying he wants to give me a kiss goodbye because he knows I'm about to do some traveling. Oh, nice. So I might. Because he was such a gem. Such a cutie. And I was like, and the fact that you didn't have any pain. I remember the next day we were texting and I was like, yes, girl. I know. I was just like so happy. Yeah. I was like, fuck yeah. It was a win. You needed a win. Yeah. Just to feel like it's a good sexual chemistry with somebody. And I will say though, like the other person I've been with too, there were a couple guys this last year. And there was someone else that I had like great sexual chemistry with, but it was painful. So this time around, it was nice to know that there was no pain and I felt safe. So yeah. And I think, you mentioned, I know you love to dance and you're a lot better at dancing than I am. But when I was going through one of my most intense breakups, I went to a couple, just kind of like, I can't remember what they're called, but just like exotic dance. Yeah, exotic dance. Exactly. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was a way for me to let out some of this pain that was just sitting in my body and to just flow and to move. Is there anything else that besides dance, I'm sure, or if you have a story where dance has helped you heal or anything else that has allowed you to kind of like shake it off a little? Sure. Dance is so special for me and it's also really hard, which is like in hard of a way because it's really emotional for me because I danced for the Miami Dolphins for a year. I've always been dancing. And that was like a huge traumatic thing. Like, being 20 and being on an NFL team. And this was before me too. So like, they would be like, suck your stomach in. You need to lose 5 pounds. Like it was intense. So it brought a lot of like shame to body and dance and how I looked or how I moved. So when I moved to LA and I was taking a lot of classes at Millennium, I was around these girls that were like 5 years old and were incredible. So I wasn't feeling like I could even keep up in the classroom. But now I've learned to just step into the dance class as like, that is my play space. That is just for me. I am not there to do it for anybody else. I've been doing a lot of like pole classes now and like exotic, floor work classes. And I just always leave feeling like that was so fucking good. And that's where I want to keep chasing are those feelings and those connections and those moments of like, that felt so right. So being in a dance class brings that to life for me. I could, play and touch and move my hair around. And I'm not that great on the pole, but like I can do a few things, I can like play it off. Maybe someone will toss a dollar bill, but that's such a great way that I can like get into my body again. And then as you know, surfing has also brought me that joy. That is like, I am present. I mean, nowadays we have our phone with us everywhere. So like, where can we go to detach? And dancing is a place I detach along with being in the ocean.
Yeah. And that's always something I've loved about you because you're so, I don't know, you're just so embodied when you're out in the world or with me and you're very present. And I love that about you. So.
Ditto. Thank you.
We were talking kind of about, pleasure and orgasms shifting for you. Do you feel like even though there has been a bit of a downward trend in the last like year or two, do you still feel like your pleasure is continuing to grow and get better as you age?
I mean, I think I'm more turned on now than I ever was, you know. I used to be on birth control when I was younger. So like I didn't have the desire and I was just having sex and opening my legs and like, oh, this is just sex, right? And then later in my early 30s, starting to get more pleasure out of it. I've always been very curious though in exploring with like women and myself. And even when I was younger, like I think we all do weird. I mean, you might even have like a podcast on this, but like little kids, how we touch ourselves, how we're like, oh, this feels really good. I've always been into exploring. And there's been a lot of like sexual play, but I think to answer your question, yes, it is growing. It is evolving. My desire is still there. And I feel like it's coming back because the last, 6 months now has been like, what is wrong with you? What's going on? Let's figure this out. That I've lost some of that. And now I'm like excited. I'm taking a new journey soon and excited to like step into the sexuality part of me again. And I just recently took a dance class and I just was like, oof, I was so turned on, like watching myself, doing my thing. And it's always there. I think sometimes we forget. And as women, we do go through stages where it's not always going to be alive, whether it's hormones or personal struggles. But it's always there for us and we always can tap back into it. But just being patient when it's not, and being kind to yourself when your body isn't always showing up the way you hope it will. And hopefully you have a partner that understands that, which is huge.
Yeah, well said. It's true. I mean, patience is huge. And also just kind of like honoring where you're at too. Like if it doesn't feel right, don't push yourself. Yeah. And I think in a lot of relationships when we're younger, we as women just do things to please. And you think like, oh, it's okay because that's what they want to do. Yeah. And I think the older you get too, you've become more like grounded in your essence. And you're like, oh, I can honor the fact that like, I don't want to fuck right now. Yeah. Or like you said, maybe hormones, maybe my body is really rejecting you physically, or, maybe you're a bad kisser, whatever it is. Like you
got to be a good kisser. You got to be a good kisser.
I had a recent foursome. I don't even know if I've told you about it.
You did not? Can we share?
They were not that good of kissers. And Hunter and I have been going back and forth. Like, do we want to see them again? Like, what do we do? Do we give them another shot? And
this is like the mouth. You have to match it. There were so many things
that we loved about them. But and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they were drunk. Like, I don't know. It's tough. We've been going back and forth.
Okay.
But kissing. Yeah. The point is sometimes you have to listen to yourself. And because we're so busy and like my energy is precious, you know? So it's like, what do I want to give my energy to? And what feels right? Like you mentioned too before is like listening to your body and being like, okay, like, you know what? Maybe this wasn't meant to be.
And that's okay. Being okay with things not being meant to be is something I have to keep saying, that's okay.
And letting go.
Right.
You know,
it all
circle
falls
back.
I got a tattoo like over a year ago that says, let it go on my arm. And it's like, it's a reminder to remind me to keep letting things go. And I have to look at it more because sometimes I forget. I'm like, I want to give faith in this person. I want to try again. But like you said, our time is precious and listening to our bodies. So
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think too, self-pleasure is something for me that I have really learned to also help me let go. Even when my aunt passed away at the end of last year, and I know you recently lost an aunt as well, I literally had like a crygasm is what I've coined it because it was just a way for me to let go in a way. And because pleasure is so close to me and it's such an integral part of my life and I value it so heavily, I think sometimes I can truly channel like, just like, I don't even know how to describe it, but I can really just channel a release in a way that makes me feel like I'm like letting go a little bit of pain or letting go of whatever needs to go, you know.
Through an orgasm?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Man, you know, I grew up in the Midwest. I know you did too. So like, yes, there's been some losses. My mom has lost some of her sisters this last year and a couple of years now. People getting old sucks and watching people get old is just so hard. But yeah, like there's so much stigma around exploring and sexuality, right? And like, I mean, LA, we're a bit more, you know, we can talk about this a bit more, but in the Midwest, it's still a bit like shunned and like sinful if you're in the Catholic, you know, Catholicism world. But because I haven't really been super sexually active, it very much is about exploring with myself. And I've always still done that, but now it is like, I only trust me. I only want to get fucked by me. and that is, I mean, I've been even like, I've cried after orgasms recently, which that has never happened to me. And I know that's very common. It is a release, but that's something kind of new. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I can't like cry from my face yet, but I'm going to like come and then everything just relaxes. And you've been so in touch with this for so long that I'm sure you can go right there and just fully release in all the areas.
Yeah, it's true though. Sometimes it's kind of like a muscle, like you have to teach it. And even me lately, I've been trying to explore nipple orgasms and different types of orgasms and you know, more spiritual ones or ones where you don't even touch yourself. And so energetic. Yeah. And so it's sometimes we really do have to kind of like teach our bodies to release in that certain way. But when you do, and you realize it's something that you can lean on, for me, it's definitely something I lean on. And so I just want to remind, you know, my listeners too, that when you are going through a breakup or letting go of something, a friendship or even, you know, a family member, sometimes like leaning on pleasure and connection can really help you move through that.
Connection's been huge too. Yeah. I feel like everyone kind of has their own way of handling stress or depression or hard times. And I've noticed that I've been very like recluse. I'll kind of I don't want to talk about it, or I'll just, you know, try to deal with it on my own. And that is not the way. You really need community. A lot of my travels, I was alone a lot. And it's interesting what the mind will start to do, right? But I think a friend recently and I were just chatting about this. She reminded me of the scene from Fight Club. Remember when, have you seen Fight Club?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Love that movie.
It's been a while, but I rewatched the scene where Brad Pitt takes Ed Norton's hand and puts, I think it's lye that like burns your hand.
Okay.
And he was like, Ed Norton starts to like meditate. She's like, this is painful. I can't be here right now. I have to go to my meditative state. And Brad Pitt is like, no, right now. This is where you are. This is your pain, and like sit with it and not be afraid of it. And kind of going back to what we were speaking about in the beginning, that not everyone wants to do that. And I think with connection and also having time to yourself, it weaves this like beautiful essence that we need as a human. We need our time to like sit with our grief and sit with our loss and our pain, and then to talk about it and to have friends like you and come together and be like, this is what I'm battling with. And just for somebody to hear you and sit there and not have to give an answer or not have to talk over you or not have to say, I'm going to fix this, which I've been very much a fixer. I try to like, what can I do to resolve it? But people just want to listen or be heard. So the community has been such a interesting and important part of my healing too.
Yeah, it's truly everything, connection, you know. It's a big theme of my podcast and my brand, but it's also like that's what we are here to be on this planet for, is to connect, and I just think it's so important. So sometimes when we do lose connections, or we even, you know, ourselves, like I know you were kind of going through a depressive time, sometimes we disconnect emotionally.
Yeah.
That is a great tool too, is to just like, you know, reconnect or find that community, find something that makes you feel more present.
Yeah. And I will just say too that it's so important for friends to come knock on your door, right? Because sometimes you get in the thick of it, and if people aren't always there to be like, to check on you is I'm so grateful for the people that have checked on me, that have sat with me in the dark times, that have held my hand and, you know, told me like, you're going to figure this out. You're going to figure this out. So it's, check on your friends, guys. Check on your friends. We live in a fucking crazy world right now. You know, it's like,
it's a lot going on.
It's a lot going on. So you're right about finding joy and pleasure, and how much the community and how we have to stick together during all this.
But also give your love, give your sweetness, check on your loved ones. And I think that I love all of that. Do you want to share that last time you had your sweet release?
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
If it's a solo one or what?
Oh, it was a solo one. So I feel like I was just like off the grid with sexuality. And I mean, I was somebody who would always want an orgasm, right? And easy. And so I kind of was just not exploring anything sexy for a while. And then I'm like, you know what? I felt it. I was like craving it. And I watched myself. I had mirrors above me.
Ooh.
I'm sure you can imagine where I was. I had mirrors above me, and it was just me fucking me. And I was just like touching myself in new ways. I was like watching my face, watching like my legs shake. And the orgasm was so intense and like long and beautiful. And I was just like, yes, like me. Like, I just want to fuck me. And I know that sounds like so egotistical, but like that was so fun. And I gave myself, like you said, that exploration and the pleasure of myself. And to know I didn't need like a dick, or I didn't need a vibrator. It was just, maybe I did have a vibrator on standby.
But you're saying it was your fingers mostly?
But it was hands, and like I think there was a little vibration play. But what got me off was like it was me that I was watching. Which was just so sexy.
I love that. You know, sometimes I catch myself, you know, we have a mirror next to our bed. And so sometimes I catch myself like really looking at myself more than I am looking at him.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes look at the way he's moving in and outside of me, and like, you know, obviously his body's beautiful, but I do catch myself looking at myself a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, women are hot though. That's why most of us want to have sex with other women, because men look good naked too, but there's something about a woman's body, and there's something about admiring your body.
Yeah, it's special. And I think there's something too about us where we like to dance and we're kind of present in our body, and we like to take pictures. And there's something about, I mean, a lot of women are that way. Truly, maybe it is truly just the feminine energy, but it is a really magical experience when you can like fall in love with yourself and then like give that pleasure to yourself and just be like your biggest fan. Yeah.
I actually just wanted to let you know too, like I know this conversation has been something we've been chatting about for a while, and I just never was fully ready to talk about all these things. And there's so much more that I'm learning, and I'm not an expert yet on what's happening and all the answers, but thank you for being patient with me, because I've wanted to sit here and share and educate. And I hope that I can turn all of this into education for other women too, of tapping into, the sacral area and the pelvic floor and what that looks like. But just wanted to let you know that this means a lot to sit here and to talk. And it's super therapeutic just to go over everything.
Yeah, it is. I mean, sometimes I do feel like it's therapy sessions sometimes in me with my guests is like, it really is. It's again, it's a way to like just listen and understand and learn. And that can be therapy. So,
well, you're doing great work, babe.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure, babe. I
really
love you so
appreciate it.
much. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you. I feel like this is a turning point for you.
Yeah.
This year has been a lot. Last year was a lot, but I don't know. I just feel like there's some good stuff coming both of our ways.
There's good stuff. Sexy, abundance, community, lots of good changes.
And lots of long, delicious orgasms.
Oh, long and delicious ones.
Okay, well, thanks, Dani, so much. Do you want to finish off with anything else or kind of a final note for people about letting go or anything?
I think, like I said, if any of these feelings are coming up for you in the body that feels off, or if you have pee issues or, feels like UTI, but it's not, just maybe start to understand that this could be some pelvic floor stuff and tightening of your body. And pelvic floor therapy is supposed to be fantastic. And I know a lot of women that have healed from that, even if you're having babies or post babies, pre-babies, that it's really important to address it when it comes up. So you start to release and can feel your best and at least manage pain, right? Like this has become such a chronic thing for me that it's interesting now how the mind can play a role in the psyche of what's actually happening. So if things come up, just know that there's support and don't give up. And just keep getting all your questions answered. And then I love you so much.
I love you. Yeah, it's the mind-body soul connection too, my sweets, that I'm always talking about. So, be mindful and, let those releases come when it feels right. And also just kind of continuing to be, sweet to yourself and be sweet to whatever it is that you're feeling and trust it, like Dani said. And I love you. Thanks so much for being here.
Come here and hug me now.
We'll
Cameras
see you
off.
next time, sweets.